Namaste class. Today we're going to work on a lower back and hip opening series. First, we're going to start with opening the lower back, the hamstrings, and the calves with a downward dog. So when you perform downward dog, keep your hands, palms flat on the floor, as well as the soles of your feet. You can come up on your toes if you're tight, but more and more progress to the soles of your feet. Now watch that your lumbar spine doesn't curl under in the tailbone. If you have short hamstrings or tight hamstrings, that might be the case in the beginning, so you would want to come on your toes and stick your tailbone up. Otherwise, keep your feet flat, tailbone lifted straight up, back flat, drop the head between the arms, and more try to get the ears between both biceps. One day, you can really push it like that, touching the floor, but just hold it here. This is really good for the calves, hamstrings, and the lower back. Okay, now we're gonna get into the front side hip flexors from downward facing dog. We're gonna go into a lunge known as the lizard pose. So this is gonna get really deep into the hip flexor right here. Good for opening, unlocking the pelvis. Hold it here. Palms flat. I like to keep my fingers in line with my toes. I'm very precise in that technique. Both palms and sole of the left foot flat. Good, now we're gonna go a little bit lower. This is gonna get into our inner thigh. And a deeper variation, we push our hand against our knee and just really get into that inner thigh of the opposite leg. Now to go into the quads, especially of this leg, grab your foot and pull, twist. You'll really feel that in the quads, especially in the front hip flexor. Whoa, right there. Okay, now let's do the other side. So go back into a downward facing dog. And this time we're gonna lunge with our other leg forward, palms flat, foot flat. Keep that back leg straight. Again, getting into the hip flexor. Right, inner thigh, put your knee down, lean into it, and for a deeper variation, press your hand against the knee and open your chest. There we go. Okay, again, the quad. Last one I grabbed from the same arm. This I'm going to grab from the opposite arm so I can show you a different variation. I also like this twist here. Tight in the quads. Okay, back to downward dog. And now we're going to work on those inner thighs and lower back. So the garland pose, you squat like this with your hands, palms together. Let me show you what that looks like. So soles of the feet are flat, palms are together. And we're gonna bring the elbows into the inside of the knees, press them out, and try to relax through the pelvis. Now some of you might be coming up on your toes in the beginning, that's okay. Maybe you might need to hold on to the coffee table or something, that's okay. Eventually, you get really into the hips here, pelvic floor, lower back. Just learn to relax. Sometimes when I'm waiting for the subway, when I'm not biking in the city, my quads are tired, I'll sit in the subway station waiting like this. Okay, from here we're gonna work into the inner thighs and the spine by twisting, bringing our left hand to the floor and the opposite arm, right arm up in the air, and get into your lower back twist. That feels so good down in the QL, lumbar spine region. Let's do the other side, hand down, twist. Again, so good in the quadratus lumborum QL region. Good. Now let's hit the glutes. The best way to hit the glutes is the figure four stretch. All right, so from the side profile, you're gonna see how rounded my lower back is. And that's the thing I work on the most, especially because I have narrow hips and I like to bike, so it kind of doesn't work well. But one other way you can do it is you lean against the wall, and I'm really gonna focus sit bones on the floor, and from here, leaning against the wall, chin forward. Oh, it's so good on the glutes. So if you have that big curve in your lower back, or narrow hips like I do, maybe you're a runner or cyclist, then do it against the wall. And when you do it against the wall, kind of prop yourself up, put your butt down, And then we're gonna lean into it like that. Oh man, feels so good on the glutes. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do is open the hips, the inner thighs, and the lower back with the baby pose. So I like to grab the inside of the arches, put my fingers around the outside of the feet, and pull down. And if you move around the legs, you can get nice and deep into your lower back. I also feel the hip sockets starting to work out. And then we'll finish it with a good spine stretch. Pull the knees in, the wind removing pose, shoulders back, roll your hips down. Great. So that's my lower back and hip opening series. Hope you guys